we don't want to lose the people that are doing something different in the food industry, and it'd just be a shame to lose all that passion and energy, and it's going to be a disaster if we see those guys disappear. I think we just need to support each other in the industry massively, especially now.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Global recognition for a restaurant is marketing gold. Making the top restaurant lists and grabbing the attention of the world's food-loving community can make a restaurant a must-visit for tourists to any city. But with concerns over the future of international travel, what impact has that had on top-shelf restaurants reliant on tourist trade? Josh Raine is the head chef of Tetsuya's, one of the world's most loved restaurants. Josh, how are you going?
Oh, very well. How are you?
I'm good. What's it been like being a restaurant that's so revered and relied on for a portion of your trade, the tourist industry, with a shutdown? What sort of impact has that had on Tetsuya's?
It had a massive impact. We could almost see it the day the announcement kind of happened. We literally, from going from 100 covers dropping down to 30 to 40 covers, it was a dramatic drop.
Wow. What was the response to that kind of impact?
It was scary for the whole team. We kind of had, I don't think anyone knew what was going on and what the scenario was going to be. So it was we were kind of blind and we didn't know which direction it was going to go. It was going to get better or going to get worse. So it was a lot of unknown.
With the pandemic unfolding overseas, did you feel any of the impact of that early on before the industry got shut down in Australia?
Yes, well, I'm from the UK, so I saw a lot from my friends in the industry back in London that they were sending photos to me with the streets and the underground completely empty, and that's kind of put the fear in me, because I was like, it's going to come. Like, there's nothing we can do. We just have to adapt, I think, and just kind of see where it went. And for me personally, I found it very hard. I was actually, the first time I had a panic attack was trying to these last couple of weeks of the restaurant being open, because we didn't really know what was going to happen. Not just for the restaurant, for our guests as well. Like, for me as a chef, I'm always thinking about quality and the food, and it was another thing I had to think about, like the safety of my team, and so the whole kind of environment kind of changed. That
personal impact that you just mentioned, can you take us through that?
Yeah, for a chef, like I love what I do. I'm 100% passionate, and I've been in this industry for 18 years, and food was one of the main things that you just had to focus on that one thing. But then the whole COVID situation, it wasn't just about the food anymore. It was about people's safety, for people around me, for my team, for the customers. It kind of changed, and kind of the enjoyment kind of went out, because it was that scary thought that someone, or we could kind of either give it to someone or we could receive it. It's just, it kind of changed the whole ethos of being a cook, and that passion and that excitement to cook.
When the lockdown happened, Tetsuya's decided not to do a takeaway model. Can you tell us why that decision was made, and you ended up opening up only until there was 50 people allowed in the restaurant?
Yes, we did talk about it, and we were we were seeing how long it was going to take. If it was going to take any longer, we would have had to have kind of jumped into that. But luckily, we had the kind of the support from Tetsuya, just saying, okay, we're going to hold off. And luckily, the people around us, the people who are in the building, kind of helped us massively. And so we didn't have to kind of dive into that, but we were very on the brink of just about to launch a product. So it was definitely on the cards. We were kind of wanting to do something being Tetsuya, like we have to do something perfectly right, and we needed that time to kind of develop something. And by the time we actually got to that stage of releasing, we actually got the news that we could start opening up. So we just held back a bit.
Tetsuya's is quite a extravagant and luxurious experience, and the tables are generally pretty well spaced as it is. Was there much impact on the dining space when you did open the doors?
As you say, we have the space, and luckily for us, we could kind of space it out a little bit more. We actually give more than we need to, because we do have that privilege of having all that beautiful dining rooms and spread it out. So the service, it was more about the service with all our menus. We had to kind of, the waiters had to, we were all just there. They're very almost, well, it's all silver service, so very like, we like to explain everything, and our sommelier likes to tell a story about all the wines and where they're from, and that kind of had to change, because we were also afraid that people didn't want that anymore. They wanted their space, and we just kind of had to adapt and kind of step back and kind of give the customer a little bit more space to enjoy. For maybe we still wanted to tell the story, like going to Tetsuya is a story, and it's an adventure. So we didn't want to lose that. So it was kind of trying to find that in between of being there, but not being in too in anyone's space and in their environment, and to let them enjoy and still kind of forget about the whole what's happening in the world, and kind of just give them that kind of that place to kind of forget about it. And it was a difficult scenario.
With the different model of operation that you had to deal with there, did things change in the kitchen as well? Can you take us through the sort of food and menu offering that you provided in those early times of just after the industry just opened up?
So the menus, we actually had three menus for the three different dining rooms we had for the restaurant. We had a lot of repeat customers through second days or following weeks, so we wanted to give them the experience, a completely different experience in different rooms. And for me personally, it was actually a better idea, because buying seafood and everything was finding very difficult to get consistency. So we looked at doing this to kind of, so we could buy the best product on the market, and this is the best way we could look at it. And then going from that, having three menus, and now dropping down back into the one. So for not just because we like the products, it's more about the staffing. We had to drop a couple of staff just because we couldn't bring everyone back. Luckily, because of the JobKeeper and those scenarios, we were able to do it. But Tetsuya did support a couple of our 457s through the whole scenario, so they got to stay. And then when we were back open, we pulled all the guys we could back in, and we were even in the pot wash. I was on the pass, and then when I got a second, I'd jump into the pot wash, and that was it. And that's what we kind of had to adapt that situation. And it kind of brought the team closer together. The environment was actually it's good, and actually a little bit better in the kitchen now, because we have all been in this situation that we've had to adapt and kind of get stronger. So it's a bit of trying, because everyone's been sitting at home, so everyone's excited and got that adrenaline going for being in the kitchen again and wanting to be there. So it's been good.
Does that mean the layers within the kitchen have sort of dissipated a little bit because of the circumstances?
Yeah, I think so. But we have a very, the way we run our team is like we're family. We all sit down for lunch. We do talk. We have situation. We talk about it. I wouldn't say that we had much. Like, there is a structure, and everyone knows their structure and where they are. But we are willing to listen to everyone, from the kitchen hand to the sous chefs. We all kind of have that agreement that we all will listen, and we'll support each other. So, and I think that's got stronger since we've been back in the kitchen. I think it was a bit of a shock for everyone to kind of be doing the hours and the love of the food, and then being sitting at home not knowing what to do. I think people have like actually missed it and wanted to get back that energy and that drive.
What's it like working with Tetsuya? Is a lot of mystery around him, and certainly to go to Tetsuya's is a once-in-a-lifetime experience for many. What's it like actually working with him and maintaining the standards that he sets?
He's he's a very hard man to please, and he keeps everyone on his tone. But he's a genius for what he does, and the knowledge he has is it's every time he talks, it's a story. It's the people he knows and the adventures he's had through his life. It's been incredible, and from starting from nothing to having a restaurant in Singapore and a restaurant in Sydney, it's been and he talks about the journey that he's been there. It's his life has been incredible. So it's something that it's inspirational for any chef, not just for me. It's inspirational for the commis chefs or the apprentices that come in. He wants to share that knowledge, and when he is here, he wants to give that knowledge and showcase what Tetsuya is about. Unfortunately, the minute he was actually in Singapore when all this happened, so he's actually got stuck in Singapore. Unfortunately,
wow,
just about to relaunch his restaurant out there, so it kind of put a lot more pressure on me. But the relationship's very good. We talk, we send kind of like a weekly breakdown of what's going on. But he's very very supportive of me, and he kind of wants. And it was a good platform for me to showcase what I could do for him. So it's kind of it's been a double-edged sword. It's been hard, but it's also kind of giving me that push.
Tetsuya is known for some pretty incredible signature dishes, some that have evolved over time as well. But how do you create dishes there, and how involved is he with you in regards to that?
There's we talk a lot. There's a lot of video conferences about what we do. If he comes up with an idea, he'll send it to me, and then we kind of at this stage, this is the only way we can kind of do it is by cooking up a dish and explaining it, and then he would cook one in Singapore, and we'd kind of just analyze it together. And yeah, with us at the moment, it's kind of all the sous chefs and myself. We all sit down, we look at the market, we explain what's on the market for Tetsuya and what's good, and yeah, we kind of just that's the only way we can really progress it.
You came from Urbane in Brisbane, which is an award-winning restaurant. How different was it working in that kitchen compared to Tetsuya?
Well, from doing before COVID we were doing up to 120 a night, and Urbane we would probably max out at probably 20 to 25. So the vast amount of preparation was completely. You kind of have to think about the food in a different kind of way, because at Urbane we would just go to any of the surrounding farmers, the local farmers, and we would ask what they had, and we would get like 20 radishes or 15 of turnips, and we could kind of build a menu on that. This is completely different ball game, because you have to look at what you can get and how the market's producing, because we would just go through so much, and we didn't want to lower our standards for anything, so we would need consistency, and that's what Tetsuya is about, consistency.
You earned your stripes in the UK as a chef. Can you take us back to those early days? How did you get into the industry, and what were the main sort of influences on your career?
Well, I'm from a heavily art orientated family. Both my parents are artists, so I kind of fell in the industry. I was a big skateboarder when I was young, and my parents were fed up of basically paying for all these skateboards. So I looked for a job, and I found a work in a butcher's. So I started working in a butcher's when I was about 16, and then after like making the usual stuff, making sausages and all that kind of stuff, and I kind of thought, okay, I'm good at this, and I wanted to do art, so I kind of put them together, and this is why I kind of wanted to be in fine dining. So when I wanted to leave home, I kind of looked at where the top restaurants in the UK were, and Raymond Blanc at Quatre Saisons was was in Oxford, and I applied, and I went in for a trial, and basically that was it. That was my love was born for French fine dining. So then, and it kind of I did 3 years with Raymond Blanc under Gary Jones there, and then I looked again at the list of the best restaurants I could work in UK, and Shane Osborne had a pied à terre in Charlotte Street. So I wrote a letter again. I went out for a coffee, and then the following day I was in the kitchen again. a bit of a crazy, but I just wanted to do. I saw the detail in the food was basically art, and that's what I wanted to do. So I just wanted to tie my love of cooking with the food that was in the UK, and those were easily some of the best producers of food in that time. So and still are. And then I worked for Shane for 3 years again, and actually went to Hong Kong to help him relaunch his restaurant in Hong Kong. So I spent a year up there. And then for me personally, Australia has always been that place that I wanted to end up. My uncle went and told me stories about it when I was a young boy, how amazing his tour of Australia was. So I always had that vision in my head. So that was always going to be my end goal, was to jump overseas. And the best thing about being a chef is you can travel anywhere and do what you do. And then, luckily enough, I knew Alejandro, who was opening Urbane. He invited me over, so that was my way into Australia. And for 4 years of kind of changing my world of food, because all the products are different seasons. You kind of have to start again coming over to Australia, because all the seafood's different. I think flavor profiles here are slightly different. So it's kind of a bit lighter because it's the weather, less creams, sauces, and all that kind of stuff. Kind of had to adapt to where the surroundings. So that really changed my whole, especially doing vegan food as well. We changed it very massively to vegan, and so that kind of changed the profile. And then, amazing enough, I got asked to come down to see Tetsuya, and then my whole cuisine changed and adapted again. So it's been a journey since the beginning. So I'm absolutely amazed and overwhelmed for the honor that, like, to get the position, because Tetsuya's has always been one of those restaurants that's been at the top and the forefront of food for forever.
Many chefs start through butchery and or dropping out of school, but was there some skills that you learned from those early days as a butcher that remain important to you?
Definitely, from nose to tail is a massive thing. No waste is a and being a butcher, you do have you have to use everything. That you can't just think you're going to make money off one thing. You have to adapt. You're going to have to use the whole thing, and that's kind of my ethos now. I don't. We, even though we are using the best produce you can buy in Australia, and you forget about, because I met a lot of farmers and producers when I was in a butcher, and you forget that the time and the love that goes into these things, and you can't waste it. It can't waste it. It's been their livelihood from day one. So just to respect the produce, I think, was a massive thing of working at butchers and utilizing everything. I think that was a massive eye opener.
When you arrived in Australia, was there particular seafood that stood out for you that you hadn't experienced before?
Lots of different. Because Shane was from Australia. We did get a couple of things. We would get finger lime. Finger lime blew my mind when I first saw it in London, and then come over here, like, kingfish and coral trout, and the Murray cod is one of my favorite fish. It's just incredible. And yeah, it's just the whole seafood changes, and that was one of the biggest ways I had to adapt my cuisine, because the seafood did change, and you have to look at the flavor profile. So I couldn't just bring things from the UK. I had to reimagine everything and kind of adapt to those flavor profiles.
You do have that really strong connection with producers and in-season produce, and yet you're enamored by the art of gastronomy and fine dining. How do you strike that balance between the art of food and respecting the produce to let it shine?
I think flavor, it always has to start with flavor. Taste, I think the visual is always secondary. Finding a product that, and I think that's why we talk to our suppliers so hard, because we want that unique product. And when we get that unique product, we want to kind of showcase that. We don't want to hide it. So flavor balance has been a massive thing for Tetsuya, and that balance and that Japanese, that ethos, 100%. So it's visually, it always comes almost the last thing for visual for me. And Tetsuya, it's all about the flavor. You start with the flavor, and if you're happy with the flavor, then you progress. Then it's the visual.
Tetsuya's has some pretty extraordinary alumni, from Martin Ben to Darren Robertson, Luke Powell, Dan Hong, Phil Wood, Clayton Wells. I mean, the list goes on and on. What sort of pressures are there on you in charge of such an important restaurant?
Immense, but good. I think I'm one of my hardest critics personally, so I do want to strive, and I do want to do the best. So, and I don't want to not perform how Tetsuya wants me. And I think it's just I've been very driven since I've been a chef, and I've always kind of know what my direction was going to be, and I've always strive to do the best food I can, and keep on adapting. And I think the pressure it's immense, but I kind of need that to kind of want to progress it, and he's very supportive about progression as well. So it's kind of scary but great at the same time.
The obligation and pressures on you have been more prominent during this period, given the circumstances with Tetsuya in Singapore. Has this experience changed the way Tetsuyas will operate and the way that you work as a chef?
I think it has changed slightly, because he, being stuck in Singapore, he has to kind of rely on me, not because he has to, but we have to. I'm the one on the forefront, and the communication is key. So we just talk everything through, and yeah, so it kind of has changed drastically from him being here, kind of, because I could always I knew where he was and kind of just asked him a question. Now it's a bit harder. Like I have to make those decisions on the spot. But I believe in what I do, so I think what we're doing is the right way, and I think and I understand Tetsuya is very happy for what we're doing, and he wants us to succeed, and he wants me to kind of take the helm. So I'm enjoying it. It's a lot of pressure, but it's a great experience.
Tetsuya's is a destination restaurant for people overseas, and with concerns over international travel still hovering over us. Will your client base change and the direction of Tetsuya's change? And what sort of impact is that going to have on the restaurant and then in the coming period of time?
It did kind of change our clientele. We would get a lot of the cruise ships and the international travelers, but we also are we're kind of that birthday anniversary restaurant as well, and I think people have been holding back on their birthdays and anniversaries since lockdown. So we got a massive wave of all those celebrations coming through, and now we're kind of we're channeling all our energy to kind of promote what we're doing and get the locals to kind of embrace us. And we're a local restaurant, and we we do what we do because we love what we're doing, but it has been a massive change for us because we can't that whole kind of clientele is completely vanished. But but we're doing really well. Like people, the ambience in the restaurant is great. The people we're enjoying, and people are enjoying to be out again. So it's good to know, good to see a full restaurant again. And we at 30, we're up to 60 a night, and we changed our kind of opening hours. So instead of doing Tuesday to Saturday, we actually changed from Thursday to Sunday, so we could kind of get that almost that like kind of that large family kind of coming on a Sunday or a Saturday. So it's that long lunches bringing that back on the Friday, and so it was just kind of the way we had to adapt. But yeah, it's been a challenge. We pushed a lot on our social media to try and and Instagram, just to kind of make sure people know that we're there to enjoy, to come back. And but when we were locked down, people were buying lots of vouchers as well, and wondering where we were going to reopen. So we knew we had a good following. So that was really nice to see.
With spot cases around Sydney and the lockdown in Melbourne, or the second lockdown in Melbourne at the moment, how do you feel about the next period of time and getting through COVID with the restaurant?
It's always changing, and that's kind of scary in its own way. I think we just kind of have to focus on what we're doing and giving the customers, when the customers do venture out, because it is harder for someone to come out for a meal these days, and it takes a lot more pressure. So we need to just kind of give them the most overwhelming service and overwhelming food that we can. So we were kind of just funneling all that energy, not just being afraid and not doing. We want to funnel it into energy, into bringing people back. And so we're not. It's hard not to think about it, because it's all around you. We just kind of have to funnel that energy and that fear into something positive.
For a chef that is operating at such a high level at a fine dining restaurant, what sort of food do you cook at home, and where do you like to eat when you go out to restaurants?
It's a good. I try cooking at home. I'm more of a bacon sandwich kind of guy. I'm not one of these people who cooks up a feast. When I have friends around, I cook a feast. But when I'm at home, bacon sandwich and just easy food. That's what I do. And that's kind of what I want to eat. I just eat around little local restaurants around Surrey Hills and the city. I enjoy just not fine dining. I'm more of a casual diner when I'm out. Yeah.
During this series, many people have talked about what restaurants might look like beyond COVID, and who will make it through and who won't. But what are the things that you love about restaurants that you want to ensure survive through this tough period?
The energy and the originality. I think people, we don't want to lose the people that are doing something different in the food industry, and those guys are in the small little restaurants that are doing incredible food and can't rely on without customers, like those small restaurants. It'd just be a shame to lose all that passion and energy, and it's going to be a disaster for the restaurant industry if we see those guys disappear. I think we just need to support each other in the industry massively, and especially now, and go and eat out at each other's restaurants. I think that's going to be a massive thing. We need to show each other support in the industry.
It's been a tough period for the industry, and as you say, we're going to lose a lot of restaurants, and hopefully we keep some of the great culinary leaders that have changed this country. But what are the positives to come out of this for you?
I think a lot of positives would just to keep trying to keep the energy, because in Australia the food scene's incredible. And I think we just need to keep that progressing, and not to let this bring us down. We just kind of need to keep on moving and kind of bounce off each other, and keep on pushing to be one of the best countries with the best food scene. I think that's one of the forefronts of what we should be looking at now. We can't just give up. We just need to keep on fighting. I think that's the best way we can do.
Well, Josh, we've really appreciated you coming on Deep in the Weeds and sharing your story.
No, thank you so much.
Keep in touch, and we'll talk again soon.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of Australia's hospo community, suppliers and producers in search of hope during this pandemic. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.